some food back there if you want. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the evening meeting of the Sacramento City Council. Would the clerk please call the roll to establish quorum? I know that we have a full membership here tonight, but we're on a short break. People will come on in, so go ahead.
Thank you. Councilmember Ashby. Here. Councilmember Warren. Here. Councilmember Harris. Here. Councilmember Jennings. Here. Councilmember Schneer. I'm here. Mayor Steinberg. And for the record, we do expect the full council this evening.
Yes, I'm here. Very good. Let us begin by rising, and I would ask Councilmember Jennings to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
My pleasure. Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, welcome again to everyone. Appreciate especially all the members of the public who are out here tonight for this meeting. We look forward to hearing from all of you who want to participate. We begin with a couple of presentations. First, we have the retirement, and who was going to present? Councilmember Schneer, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. These things are very bittersweet, but I'm going to ask Kim Mueller to come up here. Come on, Kim. So I'm actually honored to be able to do this, and we appreciate it. Kim's been working for the city of Sacramento for 41 years. That's how many? 41. That is 4 decades and a year. Since she was 2 years old. She started off when she was hired for a summer job as a wading pool leader at Southside Park in Mr. Hansen's district. She embarked on a legendary career of extraordinary dedication with the City of Sacramento's Department of Recreation and Parks. Her passion, her commitment to serve, her ability to lead made her the candidate of choice for positions in nearly every unit or program, including community centers, youth and teen sports, children's services, Camp Sacramento, Access Leisure, youth employment, hotspots, summer at City Hall, Fourth R Start, ACES, Sacramento Youth Commission. And through this all, I think Kim's dedication to our young people has just been clear. And it's always been to support them in what they need to be successful in their lives. She played an integral role in the recent reorganization of the Parks Department into the youth. She's successfully represented the city in partnerships kind of across the board. And she supported her work team, demonstrating great leadership by engaging and mentoring her staff. We have a resolution for Kim, but I just want to say a couple words, and I've known Kim and her work for a long time, since my wife worked with her many, many, many years ago. And I don't think there's been anybody more dedicated to the youth of Sacramento than you. And I think we need to give her a huge round of applause for the support that she's done. You know, we just spent a couple hours hearing from the public, and I said this to a couple people, I never thought I would be at a council meeting where youth issues really led the discussion. And even though we need you now more than ever, because it's really about the quality of the programs and the institutional knowledge that you've brought, and I know you will be continuing to work with us and helping us as we move forward. So on behalf of the mayor and the council, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for all you've done. Thank you for your persistence, for your perseverance through good times and bad in this city, to always keep your eye on the ball. And that's always been our young people. So thank you very, very much. And I would ask all of Kim's supporters back there to stand so we could recognize you. Shannon, all of your folks. These are the folks that have come to honor Kim. And I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much for the acknowledgement and recognition. I'm a kid that grew up in Sacramento. I graduated from Sac High, I graduated from Sac State, and my first job was a wading pool leader at Southside Park. I've been blessed to have an awesome career here in the city that I love, working with like-minded, passionate people, doing incredibly important work, and it goes by incredibly fast. I've had an amazing career here, not a regret for a second, and I'm happy to be coming back and kind of, dipping my toe in and out of the water. Maybe not 5 days a week, but a little part-time to continue some work we still have yet to do. So thank you all, really appreciate the recognition.
So putting your foot back in the wading pool.
Yes. Man, I wish I'd have thought of that.
I'm going to ask all of Kim's folks to come up. We need to do a picture and ask the council to come down and do this. If you want, let's go.
Great. Jay said it beautifully. I just want to say this, your city appreciates you so deeply and all that you have done, Kim, really. Great
Thank you, Mayor.
legacy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Like, are you staying in your seats? Yeah. Sit up straight now. That was funny.
I'm good. All right, looking over here. Oh, wait, I missed that one. And say, happy retirement. Okay.
I promise we have a smoother routine than I usually.
Thank you. That's a good way to start the meeting. We next want to honor and thank the members of the just graduated class of the City Planning Academy. Who is, well, I'll do it.
Who's doing the commencement speech?
Yeah. Are you, go right ahead, and then
Yeah.
we'll make some comments. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Greta Seuss. I'm an assistant planner with the Community Development Department. I'm here to present to you the graduating class of the 2019 Citizens Planning Academy. As you know, the Citizens Planning Academy is an 11-week course on planning and development. The city offers this course every year to help citizens become more effective community advocates for good planning. This year we had a very competitive application process with over 140 applications. Tonight's graduating class is the 17th since the Planning Academy began in 2002. There are 28 graduates tonight, bringing the cumulative total of number of graduates to 451. They come from neighborhoods all across the city and embody a diversity of perspectives and affiliations, including neighborhood, business, and professional interests. Every year we draw on the expertise of local planners, architects, developers, and other professionals on a range of topics, including regional planning, zoning, urban design, affordable housing, economic development, and transportation planning. We'd like to thank all of our guest speakers and panelists and tour guides who put their time and energy into making this academy a success. I'd also like to acknowledge our planning intern, Daniela Turner, for an excellent job helping to make this course run smoothly. We are here tonight to acknowledge this incredible group of people who are now ready to take a more informed and active role in planning decisions that affect their neighborhoods and shape the city as a whole. Will the graduates please stand? Please welcome the class of 2019. Now, every year, the graduates select a speaker from the class to address City Council about their experience in the Planning Academy. Our speaker this year is Julio Lamas, who is from Council District 3. Julio works for the California Department of Housing and Community Development and is a member of the Northgate Advisory Group through the Gardenland Northgate Neighborhood Association. Julio?
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you, and thank you, Greta. Mayor and City Council members, we are here representing the Citizen Planning Academy class of 2019. We represent neighborhoods from various council districts throughout Sacramento, coming from a wide breadth of experience within our respective fields, from community-based organizations to engineers to small business owners. But we all came here for the same reason. We want to serve our community. And we're proud of Sacramento. We're eager to take our newfound knowledge into our communities and to be stronger advocates for our neighborhoods. Through the learning process, we were also humbled to learn about the immense responsibility that staff carries in order to plan for a more healthy, thriving, and equitable society. And even though we may not know how to develop an environmental impact report or a transportation mitigation plan, we know how to ask the right questions. And we also have our personal lives and jobs at home, but we came in every Monday for 3 hours, sometimes with little or no coffee. But we persevered because it was never about us. We expect nothing in return besides the betterment of our communities and the opportunity for our city to prosper while keeping people at the forefront of our conversations. We look forward to working with our elected officials, our city staff, and our fellow community members in order for us to build a stronger and more vibrant Sacramento. Thank you.
Finally, we'd like to request a group photo with the mayor and council members, unless you have comments you would like to make first.
I would just want to say on behalf of the city, thank you for choosing to dedicate and commit yourself to the betterment of our city. That's a big deal. Not everyone does it. It's easy to complain. We hear that once in a while. But it's much harder to actually step up and to get engaged and to spend endless hours and weeks actually learning the intricacies of a city and the trade-offs and the difficult choices that have to be made. And it's an exciting time, as you know, for our city. And I hope you're asking the question that once you smell the roses a little bit and celebrate your achievement, and I hope you're asking yourselves, what's next? Because we need you in every way to continue pushing this city towards everything we all want it to be. So thank you so much for dedicating yourselves and for your service. Let's take a picture. Oh, we got a few. I'm sorry, we got Steve Hansen. Go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor. I would just say thank you for those comments. I told these particular graduates when we met, I think it was in their first class, and I scared them a little bit with some of the planning philosophies that I've come to learn. But it was 16 years ago that I sat where you sit. In 2003, young, had just moved to Sacramento and trying to figure out how I could give back to my community. So like the mayor just said, you don't know where this program will lead you, but just be open to those possibilities. Apply for boards and commissions, get involved in your neighborhood or the local P-bid where you care about your community. Get involved in an NACP. I see Betty Williams down here. There's so many great things going on, or the zoo. It's a great night to talk about city planning and the future. But we do need you, and I appreciated the conversations we had. I thought they were very important, not just for you, but honestly for me, because I enjoyed hearing what you had to say, so thank you.
That's excellent. Vice Mayor Guetta.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, congratulations to our speaker, Julio. It's great to see you and all the organizing you've done over the years. No surprise you've been selected to speak. But I also wanted to thank a lot of our participants in the Planning Academy, also have been strong community organizers and also sit on some of our other boards and commissions. I see the Vice Chair of our Parks Commission here as well, here today. But the fact that you're linking all of these pieces together and understanding how planning has long-term effects, I know that's how I got my start, was on the Planning Commission on the county side, and I wish I would have had a little bit of a planning academy before I got there. You know, probably would have helped a few headaches along the way, and also to our staff. I know after a full day of work, our staff also go out there and dedicate their evening to ensuring that we're spreading the knowledge about what's good planning and good things for our city. So congratulations again to all our graduates today, and also thank you to all our staff for helping keeping this great program going.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd also like to congratulate you all for being so interested in the workings of your city. And as Steve said, planning is so very important to how we envision the future. Julio, thank you for your comments. I appreciate them, and also your dedication to Northgate. And I think armed with this knowledge, you'll be ever more effective. So thank you all for participating.
Okay, do we have any other member? Let's take a picture. Because remember, if you don't take a picture, it didn't actually happen.
You want to stay up here, Daryl?
We'll stay up here. Come on up, you guys. Yeah. Just come on in.
No, just undo the thing. That's fine. Yeah, come in.
Good. More coffee next time. More coffee, yeah, hey. Thank you.
Good job.
The commencement speaker.
Pictures too?
Congratulations.
All right, squeeze it.
Yeah, y'all
Bounce it off a little bit.
A little longer. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Big round of applause.
Congratulations.
No. Very good. Okay. We now move to the consent calendar. Are there any questions or comments on items on the consent calendar? Been moved in second. Madam Clerk, are there any
There are no speakers
changes?
on the consent
No
calendar.
speakers and no changes and no, nobody wants to take anything off. Very good. Items 1 through 23, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstain. That passes on a 9-0 vote. Let's go through, is it possible to take 24 and 25 together? Separate votes, I understand, but if we could have one presentation, I'd appreciate it. Items 24 and 25. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Jose Mendez, Code Enforcement Manager for the Community Development Department. The items before you are the neighborhood code compliance and housing and dangerous building case fees and penalties for special assessment liens and personal obligations. Excuse me. The Community Development Department administrative penalties and neighborhood code compliance case fees staff report lists an amended total of 95 properties with a sum of $208,929.26 of unpaid fees and penalties scheduled for lien and personal obligation against the property. 13 properties listed in Exhibit A of the staff report have been removed from the report and are identified in the line items, including items number 1, 12 through 14, 29, 35, 58, 64 through 65, 71 through 72, 80, 86, 111, 117, and 121 through 122, and 110. For the housing and dangerous building case fees, the report lists an amended total amount of 65 properties with a total of $65,718.31 of unpaid fees scheduled for lien against the property. 9 properties listed in Exhibit A on the staff report have been set up. We've set up payment plans and or have been paid in full and are identified as items 6, 14 through 15, 20 through 22, 26, 56, 57, 64, and 75. Staff recommends that City Council adopt 2 resolutions separately as amended to allow the city to collect the unpaid fees by placing special assessment levies and personal obligations upon the properties. That concludes my presentation.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to open and close the public hearings on 24 and 25 and move the items. I believe we need a separate vote.
Okay, yes. Moved and seconded. We'll take the vote separately. First on item 24, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, that passes 9-0. Item 25, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, that passes 9-0. Very good. We can now, I think the same process here, combine items 26 and 27 for purposes of discussion, but we will take separate votes.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Sean DeCourcy. I'm an Associate Preservation Planner with the Community Development Department. I'll present the nominations for 38th Street, and then we'll move on to the 730 I Street nomination. So bear with me while I change the PowerPoint in between. So staff worked with the homeowners to initiate landmark nominations. Landmark nominations for 1181, 1109, 1308, and 1315 38th Street. All 4 properties are located along 38th Street, north of Folsom Boulevard and south of J Street. Staff has received 1 letter and 2 emails voicing support for these nominations, including a letter of support from Preservation Sacramento. These 4 properties come before you together because they exist within a potential 38th Street Historic District and are eligible under the same criteria that make the district significant. Specifically, the properties are associated with the National Better Homes movement of the 1920s, a campaign of home ownership, modernization, and beautification that grew from a critical shortages of homes during the years following World War I, and their collection of unique architectural styles were popular in Sacramento and throughout the country from the 1920s to the 1940s. Staff has recommended all 4 properties as eligible under City Code Criteria 1 and 3, and in addition, 1315 38th Street is also eligible under City Code Landmark Criteria 1, 2, and 3. Staff recommends the City Council pass an ordinance listing these 4 properties on the Sacramento Register as historic landmarks. I'll now move on to 730 I Street.
I'm sorry, do we have speakers on this item, Madam Clerk?
Item 26, I do it on 27.
Let's call the witness on item 27, please. Go ahead, and I'll call in the members.
For item 27, it's Alejandro Rayburn. Alejandro? Thanks.
Alejandro? Here he is.
Hello. Thank you, Mayor and Council members. My name is Alejandro Rayburn. I'm a researcher with Unite Here, Local 49. We represent over 3,700 hospitality and gaming workers in and around Sacramento. I'm here tonight on the 730 I Street item. To be clear, I am not here to speak against your granting landmark status for 730 I Street. However, I did want to flag with you that granting landmark status for this property will enable the property owner to apply to you for a Mills Act contract, which could provide significant tax break to that owner. We urge you to take a much more careful look at this deal before approving a Mills Act contract. We understand that you only recently approved the first few recent Mills Act contracts, so this concept may be new to many of you as well. We want to better understand how these Mills Act tax agreements can impact the community where our members live and work. Specifically, we have the following questions regarding Mills Act contracts for this property and others, which we urge you to answer before considering this deal. What is the approximate value of a Mills Act contract tax rebate for the property at 730 I Street? Which is the impact of that tax break over time in terms of missed revenue to the city, county, state, and school districts? What is the full plan for development of the entire block near 730 I Street, and how would a Mills Act contract affect the rest of the projects on that block? We strongly urge you to better understand the implications for the community of Mills Act contracts and of this contract in particular before you grant the benefit to this property owner. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your testimony. All right, that is the public testimony. We have 3 members up. Councilmember Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of years ago, we tried to create an historic district on 38th Street called the Maple Historic District, and we were actually unsuccessful in getting the majority or a very substantial number of community members to support the idea. However, 38th Street has some of the most beautiful houses in the city, and is really, I think, deserving of recognition. You know, these houses that are listed here are examples of the kind of architecture. It's very diverse on that street, but it's all of the same era, and all of these houses are very substantial. So I'm happy to open and close the public hearing and move the staff recommendation.
On both items?
This is for 26, and I believe Hanson will
Okay.
take.
Councilman, 26, did you? I'm sorry, I mixed them up. You did 26, and I will turn it over to Councilmember Hanson. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Alejandro, for your comments. The building that is here referred to as the Bank of America building, I know people here are familiar with. The city used it as interim city hall. Before that, it was our police headquarters at one point. It has been vacant for quite a long time, and we've been struggling to get it re-tenanted. One of the projects that has been proposed for the site is a hotel. And as I explained to you tonight here, the plan is to subdivide the property so that parcel, which will have a potential hotel on it, will actually be a separate parcel than the Mills Act parcel, and is going to be sold. So I know that there's a lot of logistics here and discussion, but I appreciate those comments, and we'll continue to engage around the separate parcel, but I would like to open and close the public hearing and approve the item for the Bank of America.
Item 27. Okay, good. Second on that one? I'll second that. Second on that one. So both items have been moved and seconded. We've heard the public testimony, so let's do 26 first. All in favor, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Eric, Councilmember Giff, Vice Mayor, here you go.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to ask the Assistant City Manager if we could have our staff follow up with Alex from United here and make sure that I think they answer those questions. I'm going to support the item today, but I want to make sure that we get those questions answered. I think they're fair points to be considered as this project moves forward.
That's assumed part of the motion. Very good. Councilmember Carr.
I support that, but can you answer those questions now?
Regarding the Mills Act and the property tax benefits, I don't have that information in front of me. And the Mills Act is not up for consideration at this time. It has not even been applied for at this time because this is not a historic property until this motion. So one.
Can you speak up a little
Sorry
bit?
about that. One, the nomination has to go forward before the property owner can apply for a Mills Act. So the Mills Act has not been applied for at this time. So the two items are considered separately. So you're not being asked to make a decision on the Mills Act part of the equation at this time.
Rick Jennings.
Just to be clear, it's not up for Mills Act at this time. So when it is up and there's an opportunity and there's an application that's being put forth, will it come back to this body?
It will come back to this body on consent. It's not a required public hearing item, but you, of course, can pull it off the consent.
Okay, and then at that point in time, we can pull it off and ask the questions and understand the process better. And I think just to support my colleagues, just understanding that process a little bit better would be helpful information to all of us.
We'll make sure to have a robust analysis of the economics of a Mills Act contract should this property be up for an application.
Thank you.
Okay, does that answer the question? So let's take item 26. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained. That passes 9-0. Item 27. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained. That passes unanimously. It's an easy job here. It's just... All right, we move now to item number 28.
Mayor, I'd like to waive the staff presentation if there's nothing to read into the record. Open and close the public hearing. We have no public comment and approve the item.
Second.
Okay, there is no public comment. Is there anything that staff needs to read into the record here? Oh, there is, so.
Just a few remarks.
Go.
Good evening, Mayor Steinberg and City Council members. My name is Angel Langana with the Community Development Department, and I'm here to present on Northwest Land Park Phase 5 at the Mill. Before you is a request for entitlements to redevelop an industrial area. The entitlements include a rezone from light industrial and multi-unit R3 zone to R4 zone, a tentative map to subdivide 6.7 acres into 5 lots, and site plan design review with a deviation to exceed maximum lot depth, and a tree permit to remove 3 public trees. Staff is recommending approval of the project and ask the City Council to approve the project subject to the recommended conditions of approval and findings of fact. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that has been moved and seconded with the staff comment. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Oppose, abstain. That passes unanimously. Item 29, the Natomas Hyatt House in Place.
Mayor, I believe I can waive staff presentation, although they may have a couple items they need to read into the record. You will note you were provided supplemental materials for item 29, and I would open and close the public hearing. Are there any people signed up to speak, Madam Clerk? Okay, then I would move staff's presentation with whatever information they need to read into the record.
Just acknowledging supplemental was prepared is all I had.
Supplemental was prepared. That's part of the record. Very good. That's been moved and seconded. Any public comment? Not all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstain. We know there are a lot of people here, and we're very grateful for the zoo item tonight. We are going to just go a little out of order because we think we have one other very short item. We can get that dispensed with, item 31, and then we'll get to the zoo item. Item 31 without objection.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. I'm Matt Hurdle, Senior Planner in the Community Development Department. I was hired in November to focus on housing planning policy. Last October, staff presented to Council several policy concepts to streamline development and increase housing opportunities to address the insufficient supply of affordable housing options. Since then, staff have compiled recommendations and best practices, resulting in a housing streamlining menu of options. It's a collection of potential actions the Planning Division and its partners can take to streamline the approval and production of housing. The city is committed to increasing the availability of housing for all income levels. The California Department of Housing and Community Development establishes the Regional Housing Needs Allocation, or RHNA, for each jurisdiction. The RHNA identifies the number of additional housing units needed by income level during the 8-year housing element period. 96% of jurisdictions, including Sacramento, have not met their prorated RENA for the current housing element period. Our goal is to improve the city's progress in meeting its RENA in all 4 income levels. Since October, a number of actions have been completed. I'd like to highlight the work of Councilmembers Hanson and Harris for convening and co-chairing the Accessory Dwelling Unit Working Group. 3 focus sessions were held, and priority recommendations have been added to the menu of options. Over 50 potential actions have been identified that the city's planning division and its partners can initiate to streamline the approval and production of market rate and affordable housing. Next 3 slides will highlight a few notable potential actions. The ADU Working Group identified 7 priority actions under the 3 headings shown on the slide. As part of the 2040 General Plan Update, we anticipate exploring higher residential densities, including the potential for allowing additional units in residential zones to encourage smaller and more affordable housing types. In compliance with SB 35, we are in the process of creating a by right checklist with no discretionary approval for small residential projects and large residential projects that provide affordable housing and pay prevailing wage. The city is also exploring ministerial approval beyond the requirements of SB 35. We also plan on returning to council this fall to provide an update on the mixed income housing ordinance. Staff anticipates bringing on a consultant team to determine the impact and effectiveness of the ordinance and the city's housing impact fees. Staff is working with the mayor's office to explore a pilot program that matches college students with seniors, thereby providing housing for students and income and companionship for seniors. We are excited that a state funding source has been identified to support the implementation of these potential actions. The city is eligible for $625,000 in state grant funds for plans that accelerate housing production. Staff recommends using these grant funds to hire a consultant team to implement several of these actions. The Housing Streamlining Menu Options is a working document to be updated regularly to prioritize actions, identify staff leads, and track progress and next steps. 2 working groups will be established. An internal working group will focus on the details and logistics of moving actions forward, and an external housing working group will vet, prioritize, and identify actionable next steps. Additionally, the city manager's office anticipates hiring a city housing manager as identified in the FY 19-20 budget request. Some of the anticipated responsibilities of this new position include identifying and leveraging additional funding sources, working with development partners and SHRA to get more projects built, and partnering with the state to advocate for policies and funding that lead to increased housing production. In conclusion, staff recommends that City Council adopt a resolution directing staff to implement the housing streamlining menu of options and adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to submit an SB2 planning grant application in the amount of $625,000. I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
We do have people signed up to speak here. Go ahead.
I have 2 speakers on this item. The first is Louis Morante, then Ansel Lundberg.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Louis Morante. I am on the board of a local organization called House Sacramento. We're a YIMBY organization that says yes to more housing. District 4 resident, and very excited to see this item come forward. As folks know, there's a lot of housing problems in Sacramento right now. Folks from the Bay Area coming here, displacing folks who've lived here for quite a while. The whole state needs a whole lot more housing and a much deeper focus on housing as an issue. I'm really glad to see Sacramento stepping up to that challenge and taking this over as an item the city increasingly focuses on. Also, we're just really excited to see the $100 million being considered for an affordable housing bond, much needed affordable housing bond for Sacramento. I know that came up earlier today, and not necessarily this item, but just wanted to emphasize that these 2 items pair well with each other, and overall encourage your support for item 31, and I'm just excited to see Sacramento focus on housing as an issue because it's a big one. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you.
Ansel Lundberg is the final speaker.
Ansel?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Ansel Lundberg. I'm back in support of this item. Very happy to see that all the work that Matt and the other community development and planning staff had put on this. I'm also a member of House Sacramento, and we are here to support the menu of options in front of the city today. I think it represents a good vision for the city's future of housing. There's a lot of good policy in that document that has been well vetted, and we are looking forward to seeing those motions go forward. And so we urge your support for this item and commend your focus on housing, again, as Louis mentioned. So love to see this go forward, and we'll be interested in the results of this effort. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have a couple members up, and I know I have a question, but let's start with Councilmember Hanson.
Thank you, Mayor. I know we had this on the agenda a few weeks ago and we had to postpone it, but I first want to say, Matt, Greg, Tom, the whole team at the Planning Department, this is really great work. We're trying to be responsive to the housing crisis on many fronts. The availability of units is a key to what we're trying to do, just like earlier today we're talking about a affordable housing bond. And so I want to thank you for the work. This is very comprehensive. I also know that earlier on the agenda was our item to make zero the fees that affordable housing pay in our city of restricted affordable housing. That's going a long way to help us close that gap as well. And there's many other things, and I was looking here to my colleague Jeff Harris, because we were co-chairing a small working group with the private sector on how to advance ADU construction. So we're exploring so many different things so fast. The one thing I'd say, Mr. Mayor, is this SB2 stuff is really good. I know that you worked on this at the state level. Our governor put in the budget money for cities to leverage even more than this for a variety of things. I don't yet know how that money is going to be spent, but I can imagine that Sacramento, if we implement this stuff, should be very competitive. But between the staff, I hope we come back and try to continue to draw down that state money and leverage it. And Mr. Mayor, maybe that's what you were going to mention.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
So I did read the governor's budget like I read ours, and I will be presenting my proposal to him later today.
Yeah, you tell the guy, right, you're on a roll, why not? Why not? So, but I do want to, before I turn it over to, go ahead, Eric, then I'll go Les, go ahead. Vice Mayor Guerra.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll go ahead and second the item, but also wanted to thank the staff for great work. Greg, thank you very much. I think I want to make sure that we are looking at this also as part of the overall neighborhood economic development plans that we're doing, and making sure that we're linking with all of the neighborhoods around those commercial corridors where we see a high opportunity for infill housing that's not the traditional central core city areas. I do want to thank both Councilmember Hanson and Harris for bringing those issues up about making sure that we support corridor improvements. What I'd like to see is when you come back, is also identifying other policies that we need to look at that are inhibiting construction in those areas. Are they infrastructure, improvements that need to be done? Are they brick and mortar? Some of these places were built as strip malls and don't have the ability for density in those areas. So I'd like to be able to see those. Second, there was an earlier item that we moved to the June 4th deadline, and my understanding is the governor's proposal is going to put out another $500 million for this work, some of it which will go to Cal HFA, and I want to make sure that if you can come back with any recommendations on how to best maximize those resources and not restrict our ability to leverage those. I'm a little concerned about the recent item that I'm glad we deferred, because I think we could have restricted our ability to take advantage of those funds that are going to be going to Cal HFA. With that, I think great work. There's a lot that we can leverage, I think, at the state level. Thank you again, Mr. Mayor, for your leadership on SB2 on that. But the staff, I think everyone is excited about the neighborhood action plans that are going to come out of this.
Thank you. So this is, they say the stars are lining up. I mean, between today's intended direction with the potential large housing bond, together with the state and stepping up in a major way on housing, together with what we've done over the last year to 18 months to streamline our permitting and take other actions that should make it easier for the development community to build affordable housing. This is the part, though, that I don't want to miss. You said the grant is $625,000?
Correct.
Okay, I want to make sure that you're asking for enough. Is that enough?
That's the maximum amount we're eligible for our population.
Well, then it's enough. Okay. So the second point, though, is this, that I hope when we get the planning grant that there is some real strategic thought into putting forward the case to maximize the amount of substantive state housing dollars that we are eligible for. Because I will just say this, as a city and as a region, I don't think we've done as well as we should do traditionally when it comes to state funding. I think there's every potential for that to change, and in some ways it is already changing. But I want to make sure that we put our best foot forward with this planning grant and stretch, really stretch. If you don't aspire to a big number with the state, you'll never get close. Don't just use it as a traditional planning exercise, but actually strategically, how much money we need, and translate into that into how many additional units we'll be able to build. It's good stuff. Okay? So that's it. We've got a motion and a second on this. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstain. Very good. Thank you very much. That's terrific. Okay, let us now get to, thank you for everybody's patience in allowing us to take that item first. Let's go to item 30, Sacramento Zoo potential expansion and relocation. Our retired annuitant, yes.
Good evening, Fran Holwacken with the City Manager's Office, and yes, thank you for the opportunity to continue to serve you and allowing me to work on such an interesting project. And being a Sacramento native, I've been going to the zoo myself for decades, so thank you again for letting me work on this. So about 10 years ago, studies were first started to look at possible zoo sites. The first study considered, it was more focused on Sutter's Landing Park, and it was eventually found that that was not a good choice for relocation. Since that time, 12 additional sites have been evaluated, and they are listed in your staff report. There is one thing you don't see in there that I should mention, that the current land park site, which is on just under 15 acres, does have limitations on expansion. So I looked at that site and saw that pretty much going to the north was the only potential way to grow the land park site. You can get about 10 to 15 acres. It would take the ball fields or a portion of the ball fields. So the most you could get at that land park site is roughly 25 to 30 acres without taking up substantial other uses. And as you'll hear, 25 to 30 acres is really not large enough for what the zoo needs to do. So I'm pretty much going to be turning this over to the true experts on the zoos, and they will do some self-introductions as they go along. So next person up is the Zoo Board Chair, Elizabeth Stallard.
Thank you, Mayor Steinberg. Thank you, members of the council. Again, my name is Elizabeth Stallard. I am the president of the Zoo's Board of Trustees. I'm here tonight with our executive director and CEO, Jason Jacobs, to talk to you about the proposal before the council tonight. Before we begin, if you'll indulge me, I just want to take a moment to ask that all of our volunteers, staff, and trustees who are here tonight, both former and current, on behalf of the Sacramento Zoo, stand. There we go. They make me look better than I deserve each and every single day, and I'm very grateful to have them here tonight with us. As Fran mentioned, thank you, Fran, we have a presentation for you tonight about the proposal. Hopefully we will answer any questions you have, but obviously at the conclusion of that proposal, if you have any questions about the zoo or relocation, we're happy to field them. And with that, I will turn things over to Jason to get us started.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for hearing us out tonight. We're here to talk about expansion or extinction, and part one is, how did we get here? Sacramento Zoo was moved to its current location in 1927. I say moved because there were actually 3 city-owned and operated zoos in parks throughout Sacramento that were consolidated into a site in Land Park in 1927. We have 500,000 visitors a year, making us the most visited city-owned asset where people pay an admission fee to come see. We represent over 10,000 member households, which represents in terms of individuals well over 50,000 individuals, and we serve guests from throughout Northern California. In fact, we have school groups that come from as far away as Reno and Lake Tahoe to come visit the Sacramento Zoo. A modern zoological park has 4 assets. It meets the standards of animal care, meaning that those standards of animal care is ever changing to take the best care of our animals. It's conservation focused because many of the animals that people expect to see in zoos, zebras, rhinos, elephants, polar bears, even the state animal, the grizzly bear. Grizzly bear is extinct in California, but those other species are facing some very real challenges in the wild, and the world will need good zoos more than ever in the next 10 to 15 years. We educate the public and future generations. We have over 500,000 people who come to the zoo who might not otherwise ever see those species anywhere else in Sacramento but at our zoo. And finally, a modern zoological park is AZA accredited. Why does AZA accreditation matter? Because if we were not AZA accredited, we most likely wouldn't be able to house and care for animals such as snow leopards, red pandas, the great apes, okapi, and many other species that are rare or endangered. We don't own these animals. We collaboratively manage them to prevent extinction. We manage populations and we increase the capacity because the sad fact is that many of these animals do not face a great alternative in the wild. Our key challenges are the lack of parking. If you've gone to the Zoo and Land Park on any weekend, busy weekend, you'll know that there is no parking. We survey our guests, and that is the #1 complaint. We get people writing us letters and very angry when they drive in from over an hour away and they can't find any parking in the park. The other is the risk of losing accreditation. Our last AZA accreditation inspection was in November of 2017. At the March 2018 meeting, they deemed that the majority of the zoo's assets are outdated and we would have to do a significant renovation to keep our accreditation and keep certain species like our great apes and big cats. The majority of the facilities that those animals are living in were built in the 1960s. And there's a lack of expansion. We have sent many animals away, animals that people ask about every day, such as the tigers, the gorillas, the hippos, the sea lions, the bears. And every day we get those questions from guests, mostly from little kids, as to why we don't have these species anymore. We sent the last tiger away. If we had the space, we could fundraise to build a new tiger habitat. We don't have that capability with the space allotted in Land Park. And finally, there's limited ability to increase revenue and attendance. We have 500,000 visitors a year, roughly. We know that if we could increase the size of the footprint and if we had parking, we could bring a lot more people to Sacramento. There's a graph that basically compares us to similar metro markets throughout the United States: Kansas City, Cincinnati, Portland, and San Antonio. All of these zoos are larger than us. They're either 35 to 100 to 200 acres, and they all see 1 million to 1.5 million guests per year. We fall short of where we should be. We should be reaching 1 million visitors a year based on our metro population. On top of that, the number of animals in the exhibits are declining. We have lost over 2/3 of the species which we displayed. We've lost over 2/3 of the animals which we have housed. We have had to make some really tough decisions, especially in the past year when we sent out our last tiger. But these decisions have been going on for over 20 years now. We've lost the hippos, we've lost the bears, we've lost many species. And here you could see some of the faces of the animals, some of which we still house today, some of which have been sent away to other institutions, or when they pass away through attrition, we no longer house. Those animals have become what you see now, and in the future, as the standards continue to increase and we need more space to house animals, we will become a niche zoo that only displays smaller species unless something is done.
Thank you. For many of you, this conversation is probably nothing new. There has been some form or the other of a conversation about how to expand or deal with the modern Sacramento Zoo going on for about 30 years. Every time the conversation comes up, the problem is clear. We don't have enough space, and that is a fundamental and material limit on what we can do as a Sacramento Zoo. So the problem has remained the same, But if anything, the need to find a solution has just become more urgent. And that's why we're here today to talk to you about what that solution would mean. That solution, it doesn't have to be this way if we relocate the Sacramento Zoo. Our vision for a relocated Sacramento Zoo is a much larger attraction. That means the ability to house more animals and the ability to provide far greater amenities to the Sacramento community. Our vision for the future, a beautiful, modern, expanded zoo, does a number of things for this community. First of all, it allows for the return of iconic species. We can bring back the hippo, we can bring back gorilla, we can bring back bears, the animals that people expect to see at a modern zoological park. We can also, with that opportunity, bring animals to Sacramento that have never before called this place home, like the rhinoceros, another critically endangered animal that we can teach the Sacramento community about each and every day while it's living at the Sacramento Zoo. Of course, a larger space allows for increased attendance and accessibility for both children and adults to learn more about our conservation efforts, to learn more about why these animals matter, and of course to have opportunities to collect, to have fun, and also to learn at the Sacramento Zoo. We also, of course, become a destination attraction with a much larger size, and we can do so and drive growth through tourism. When we become an all-day amenity, we bring people to Sacramento to our zoo who otherwise might go to San Diego or San Francisco or someone else to get that all-day attraction value. We keep people in Sacramento, and we also bring people to Sacramento, and there are corresponding benefits to the community as a whole. Of course, the more significant the Sacramento Zoo is in this community, the more opportunities there would also be for educational partnerships and the opportunity to provide both classes and training, unpaid internships, and also, of course, paid jobs at all ranges of the income spectrum, because a larger zoo will require more people to staff it. Oop, getting ahead of myself. Hold on. Again, there's an increased capacity for educational as well as cultural partnerships. The Sacramento Zoo has been partners with the University of California Davis School of Veterinary Medicine for over 4 decades. Part of that partnership involves their veterinarians working on site and our ability to support their programs through allowing for veterinarians to come learn. We have spoken with the UC Davis Dean of the school, and they're excited about future opportunities to expand their programs with the Sacramento Zoo and to keep their students here while practicing and while learning their craft, as well as potentially allowing for undergraduates and others to take advantage of the amazing partnership we could have by being located so close to the #1 veterinary school in the world. And of course, a larger expanded zoo with modern facilities allows us to keep up with the modern standards of animal care. As Jason mentioned, in order to maintain our accreditation, we need to have the kinds of facilities that modern animals can live in. Those standards increase every year. We need to be able to keep up, and we need to have the option and the opportunity to continue to maintain the zoo in the future. And of course, why does it matter? Because it's our commitment to conservation, the central mission of the Sacramento Zoo to support these species. The reality is, without accredited zoos, these animals would not stand a chance in the wild. We help to preserve species, we help to maintain genetic diversity, and we help to teach people that it matters if these animals go extinct. And so an increased population and increased size of the Sacramento Zoo just allows us to transport that mission to more and more people in the community. There we go. And so why are we here? Because we can't do it without you. We're here tonight to speak about a proposal that would offer $150,000 dedicated to a feasibility analysis to determine the best location for a relocated and expanded Sacramento Zoo. That feasibility analysis will do one key thing. It's going to evaluate and recommend the most viable and sustainable site for the relocated Sacramento Zoo. We're going to answer basic questions: where to build it, how we should phase it, and of course, how we can pay for it. We've already begun that process. In fact, over the past 1.5 years, we have been looking at potential sites, we have tested the numbers, and we've used a dozen criteria to identify the best and most viable option for relocating the Sacramento Zoo in this area. Through that process, we've already identified 3 top sites that we believe are potential candidates. Those 3 sites: the Bing Maloney Golf Course, the former Sleep Train Arena site, and North Natomas Regional Park. As these 3 slides demonstrate, there are 2 key takeaways. The first, as you'll see in each of these renderings, That dotted outline is the footprint of our existing 14.7-acre zoo. You can see what a dramatic and material difference a much larger zoo would have on our ability to house animals and also open to the community. And of course, what these renderings each show is we can make our vision for an expanded modern Sacramento Zoo happen in any of the top candidates. We don't want the Sacramento Zoo to fade away. We know, and you can tell from this room tonight, the community doesn't want it to fade away either. It doesn't have to be this way, and we can go on a path that gives this community the zoo it deserves. But we can't do it without your help. On behalf of the Sacramento Zoo, thank you for your time tonight, and hopefully for the opportunity to stop talking about our past and start planning for an incredible future. Thank you.
Thank you very much for an excellent presentation. Do the members have any preference? I was intending to take the 14 public speakers first, and then we'll turn it back to the City Council. Why don't we do that? If that's all right.
As the mayor said, I do have 14 speakers signed up to speak. The first is Ashag Mehta, Maria Baker, then Ed Perez. And please correct my pronunciation.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. My name is Akshij Mehta, and I'm an Natomas resident and an 8th grader. I'm here today so that you can consider keeping the Sacramento Zoo and having it relocated to Natomas. I want to start this comment with a quote from Betty White, an American actress. People forget the good that zoos do. If it weren't for zoos, we would have many species that would be extinct today. Zoos play an important role in education. All elementary schools in and around area will be close to an amazing field trip. Zoos also provide an educational resource to students K-12 in various different ways. The kids learn and will have a better understanding by seeing live animals in their natural habitat, which they should normally not be able to see. The Land Park Zoo will benefit from the move as it has limited space for the animals right now. More space and area will make the animals happier. Bigger zoos also mean more animals mean more animal lives, saved from the malicious animal hunters. Another reason to keep the zoo is the tourist attraction. As noted before, many people would come from all across the U.S. to come here to see our zoo. We want the council to keep the promises made to Natomas when Sleep Train Arena closed, that something meaningful would replace it. And relocating zoo in Natomas will surely put Natomas on the map, and I'm sure moving the zoo will become a big family travel attraction for not just Natomas families, but to many families in and around Sacramento, much like the San Diego Zoo. Having a zoo in Natomas will also increase volunteer opportunities for youth, not just for one, but for 3 different school districts. This will also create more avenues for teenagers and students for them to be engaged in community projects. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for testifying.
Next speaker is Maria Baker, then Ed Perez, then Catherine Kearney.
Mayor Steinberg, members of the council, I'm kind of the deja vu person here. My name is Maria Baker. I was the former zoo director and CEO of the Zoological Society from '89 to '90, and I worked at the zoo for a total of 23 years. So I have been here before. I have talked about the same kinds of things and had the same kind of dreams. And I want to let you know also that I am a member of the Land Park residence area. I've lived there since 1974, so I know well the problems, the traffic jams, the parking that happens in Land Park. And I know all the routes around the zoo, so I can get to Rayleigh's. One of the things that I think is really important are the partnerships that the zoo has created over the years. Zoos tend to make partnerships with a variety of organizations. And it's been stated, the Sacramento Zoo has an absolutely incredible relationship with the University of California, Davis, because they have the best, the only, well, not the only, the best, I will say the only, of the exotic animal medicine. And we have always, in the many years since I started at the zoo in the 70s, zoos across the country have been envious of our in our connection with the university. We can do so much. We can continue to help make this city a destination city, and a larger zoo would bring the kind of coordination with various groups that I think would make the city an even greater area for young people, students. And remember, we draw people from 100 miles. So I think a feasibility study is absolutely needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Back.
Ed Perez, then Catherine Kearney.
Yes, good evening, Mayor Steinberg, council members. My name is Ed Perez, and I'm a resident of North Natomas. And I'm actually here tonight, as most of us here are, to urge you to help save our beloved zoo. I remember the first time I saw the Sacramento Zoo. I'm actually a transplant from the Bay Area, but I've called Sacramento home for over 20 years now. And I remember the first time I saw the Sacramento Zoo, I was immediately struck by the wonderful work that the zoo staff has done. I mean, admittedly, the zoo is fairly small, but boy, they sure made the best of it. And of course, you can forget the fabulous flamingos, right? And as you heard from zoo staff, the zoo's at risk of losing its accreditation, and to remain a viable conservation and educational amenity for our city. I think it's pretty clear from the presentation that the zoo has to move to larger spaces. And it's nice to see all the available areas where we can actually move. And I apologize for sounding parochial here, but when it does move, not if it does move, but when it moves, preferably it'll be in North Natomas. So I also wanted to remind the council that a few years ago, Sacramentans were asked to think big, and we did. As a result, we now have the world-class Golden One Center and the Downtown Commons. We also have the new Powerhouse Center coming up in about 2 years. But if we don't save the zoo, basically you've got, we're moving 2 steps forward and 1 step back. So I just urge you to keep moving forward, and I think the way to do that is to save the zoo. So again, I urge you to save our beloved zoo. Thank you.
Catherine Kearney. Catherine Kearney, then Mike Testa.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and council members. My name is Dr. Catherine Kearney. I'm a former teacher, a college dean, and a Land Park resident. In fact, I hear the lion roar every morning, so I live very close to the zoo. I'm also, and maybe most importantly, a volunteer docent with the Sacramento Zoo, and tonight I'm here representing more than 1,500 volunteers, 130 of which are volunteer docents like myself, many of whom are here. And we're here to strongly urge you to support the feasibility study. The zoo is more than an entertainment attraction. It's a living classroom. It's a vital link that connects abstract learning to real-world experience. And in the 2 minutes that I have, I can't possibly name all the things that we do in that arena, but I'd like to highlight a couple. Every year, between 50 and 60,000 children come to the zoo as part of school groups. In fact, I was there on Friday. 1,536 kids from 19 different schools were at the zoo on Friday morning. We also reach out to schools through the Zoomobile, where we touch about 6,000 more students. We, every week, entertain anthropology students from the college who come out and they look at primates and observe them. We have Girl Scout days where they earn badges. And we have Dream Night and Deaf Awareness Days that are specifically designed to meet the unique needs of learners and their families. Additionally, and I think really importantly, we touched on this earlier, we have a volunteer teen program that provides about 180 teens each year with the opportunity to both teach and learn about animals as well as take on important leadership roles. Expanding and relocating the zoo will allow these programs to continue. And that's something that might not be possible if we have to remain in our current location and are required to reduce the number of large animal species. In closing, on behalf of volunteers, docents, and learners, I urge you to move forward with the feasibility study. Thank you very much.
Speaker is Mike Testa, then Ashley Rumigeri.
Good evening, Mayor Steinberg, members of the council, Mr. City Manager. My name is Mike Testa, and I'm the president and CEO of Visit Sacramento. I'm also a board member for the Sacramento Zoo. As noted in last week's Business Journal, tourism in Sacramento is up year over year, and in just Sacramento County, visitors spent more than $3 billion into our economy. With the renovations of the Memorial Auditorium, the Community Center Theater, the expansion of the Sacramento Convention Center, and the potential investment in the old Sacramento waterfront, we can and should expect to draw more visitors and their discretionary dollars into our economy. When built as destinations, zoos can drive incredible economics for a city. According to the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, zoos attract 180 million annual visitors. That's more annual visitors than the NFL, the NBA, NHL, and Major League Baseball combined. The best part of this conversation is that the Sacramento Zoo is a great asset for this community, and it has the potential to be even more valuable to both our residents and our visitor economy. The direct beneficiaries of this project will be the people who call this region home. We ask that you continue studying this opportunity with the goal of allowing the zoo to grow and thrive in a city that is doing just that. Thank you.
Mr. Testa.
Mike, Ashley, hold on, you're fine right there. But Mike, can I just ask you one question really quick? If you could you just say something really quickly about the difference between the zoo being a half-day destination now and a full-day destination, and what that would mean for TOT? I know that's sort of inside baseball, but I also know it means a lot to us, especially in our current conversations about trying to increase our TOT revenue.
Sure. So right now the zoo is a regional destination. A lot of the visitation, most of the visitation comes from this market. It's not bringing folks from the Bay Area who are staying the night. Visitors may go to the zoo while they're in Sacramento, but that's not what brought them to Sacramento. When you talk about a zoo on the scale of San Diego, people are going to San Diego specifically to go to that zoo. And the contributions in Cincinnati for the zoo, just from people specifically coming to the market to that, are about $60 million a year. That's hotel stays, restaurant stays, shopping, and retail. So it's a huge economic driver for cities.
60 million, got it.
Thank you.
So Ashley
Next.
and then Arthur Scotland.
Dear Mayor Steinberg and members of the Sacramento City Council, the zoo is a very fun place that is enjoyable for so many families. Since there has been a campaign on how it should or shouldn't move to Natomas, I'd like to state my opinion on it. I believe it should move to Natomas. It would be amazing if the zoo moved. I saw their plans. It would be the best zoo yet. It would also be fun for the community. More people would enjoy it, and we could save more animals. It's hard for people in other towns that have to drive all the way through downtown traffic over to Mann Park. People sometimes have trouble parking there. The zoo currently does not have its own parking lot for the over 500,000 people who visit each year. It would be easier for everyone if the zoo moved to a more convenient location that's bigger and has better parking options. Think about how many more people would visit the zoo. Also, Natomas is a growing community with lots of young families. When kids come from all over Natomas, they will want to come again. There would be lots of repeat business. With a new location and a lot of space, it would have many new animals. The zoo is also currently working on local conservation projects like saving western pond turtles. The zoo provides funding for wildlife conservation. They have a program called Quarters for Conservation that right now is working on saving zebras, lions, and helping restore the Berryessa Snow Mountain area that was recently destroyed by fires. If they moved, they could work on more conservation projects and save more animals. The zoo has given more than $1 million to conservation efforts over the past decade. Imagine what they could do with more space and more money. They could save more animals and have more attractions. I hope you see how important it is for the zoo to move to Natomas. It would be fun for the community, it would be a bigger and more convenient location, and they would save more animals. Also, I would like to give these letters that I've been collecting from all over Sacramento to the mayor, please.
Wow. Please, I'm going to come down and
And these are letters from students all over Sonoma, Sutter, San Mateo, and San Joaquin counties. So not just the Sacramento region.
Amber.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Ashley, before you walk away, tell these guys how many media interviews you've had to do in the last couple of months.
Like 2.
Good job.
Our next speaker is Arthur Scotland, then Brandy Tuzon Boyd.
Wow, wasn't she great?
A fact to follow there, Justice.
Hard to follow, that's for sure. Thank you, Mayor Steinberg, members of the council. I'm Art Scotland, born and raised in Sacramento. I'm virtually almost a lifelong resident in the Land Park area, and I'm a longtime Sacramento Zoo member and donor. And as much as I have enjoyed the nearby zoo since my childhood, I am here to urge you to support the zoo's proposal to move to another location where it can best thrive and it can best serve the Sacramento community and the greater Sacramento community and the regions around it. It's the undeniable fact is that due to the limited footprint of the zoo in Land Park, the zoo has lost iconic species and is going to lose more iconic species because evolving zoo standards require more space and more amenities for the animals. And our capital city really deserves and needs a first-rate zoo, and so does its animals. This can be achieved only if the zoo is, if you approve the zoo ultimately moving to another location with a new, larger, modern facility that also has family-friendly amenities for the visitors and more convenient parking. So for the sake of the zoo's sustainable future, for the sake of the very important role that the zoo plays, the educational role for young people and geezers like me, for the zoo's contributions to the global effort to preserve endangered animals and threatened animals, for the sake of our growing community and the regions around it, I urge this court to support the zoo's proposal, this first step. This will be money well spent. It's the right thing to do. Sacramento deserves it and needs it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brandy Tuzon Boyd, then David Salyer.
Good evening. My name is Brandy Tuzon Boyd. Today I'm speaking to you as a longtime member of the Sacramento Zoo, as an Natomas resident, and one of the leaders of We Want a Zoo grassroots group you see here in the audience. We believe today's discussion is not only important to the future of the Sacramento Zoo, but also to the Natomas community. We want to see the city's beloved zoo not only survive, but thrive as a regional amenity. We also want the city of Sacramento and the Sacramento Kings to keep their promise to our community that reuse of the old arena site in Natomas would not only be an economic engine, but something that could, in the words of Chris Granger, change the world. We believe establishing a world-class zoo on the arena site is a great fit for our community, Natomas. I am presenting you with a petition today which includes more than 1,600 names of people who support the idea of a zoo at the old arena site in Natomas and oppose a current proposal that could see the use of the site for housing and retail. I do want to thank the Sacramento Zoo leaders and staff who have attended several meetings in North and South Natomas and shared their vision for a world-class zoo with us. I also want to thank the mayor's office, the city manager's office, and the Sacramento Kings for meeting with us about the future of the old arena site in Natomas and the potential for it becoming the zoo's new home. And finally, I want to thank the hundreds of people, some of whom you see here, who live in Natomas, Land Park, East Sacramento, and beyond, who support the idea of a zoo in Natomas. We want a zoo, and we would like you to move forward with this feasibility study.
David Salyer, then Mike Barnbaum.
Mayor and council members, my name is David Salyer, and my wife and I have been residents in Natomas for the last 17 years. Last year, we were two of those people that traveled to San Diego in search of the all-day amenity at the zoo. We quickly learned that that was not enough time to visit such a facility, and on the way back, we wished we had something like that zoo in Sacramento. Later, we saw in the news that the zoo is considering the old Sleep Train Arena site as a possible location. We felt that was an answer to our dream of getting a zoo here in Sacramento that was world class. We quickly became members of the zoo and visited several times in the past year, as well as attended some of their other events. And we are amazed what they've been able to accomplish in their small site. If you have not been to the zoo, I would urge you to visit for yourself. Learn about the endangered animals that are in their care, like the eastern bongo, of which there are fewer than 300 left in the wild. Talk to the staff or people that work there, and I'm sure that they will tell you that they have the best jobs in the world. But more importantly, observe the families that are there and listen to the joy the children express upon seeing a zebra, a snow leopard, or an okapi for the very first time. And then imagine what the zoo could accomplish if they were given a site to relocate like the old Sleep Train Arena. Imagine them making a bigger impact in the animal preservation while becoming a destination for local families as well as tourists coming to Sacramento to enjoy. Look at what the Sacramento Zoo has planned and imagine the possibilities. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Mark Barnbaum, Nancy Kong Vasquez, then Joe Flores.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Mike Barnbaum, and I am pinch hitting for your athletics tonight for Mike Tavares, who could not be here. We want a zoo. We want a zoo to be located in North Natomas at the former Sleep Train Arena site because it is one of the key things to keep the commitment the city had that a viable and important piece goes into the former Sleep Train Arena site, and the zoo is the solution. This helps after we finish the job to crown downtown and have now had our crown jewel open for 3 seasons. Secondly, we want a zoo in North Natomas because it would help the zoo's accreditation process to be accredited when they have to go through that process again. You heard that from the zoo staff this evening. Number 3, we want a zoo because it will expand the opportunities of a greater number of animals and amenities to be a tourist attraction, that we can have a world-famous Sacramento Zoo, and what they have down south could be just a world-famous San Diego freeway. And fourth, yes, Interstate 405. And fourth and final, related to that, a balanced transportation plan for the zoo for expanded parking, and on September 8th, the SAC-RT Forward network takes effect with 2 7-day-a-week bus routes up and down Truxell Road serving this location. Thank you. I'll be here if you have any questions any further. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Nancy Kong Vasquez. Nancy Kong Vasquez, then Joe Flores.
All right. Because I'm here to bribe you. Mayor Steinberg and council members, my name is Nancy Kong Vasquez, and I am a 19-year resident of Natomas. I moved to Natomas from San Jose when we started our family because we wanted to find a community where our children would thrive. I'm an active member of Natomas, have been a leader of various parents groups, sports teams. I'm the current board secretary at Westlake Charter School and a We Want a Zoo ambassador. In addition to my day job as a project manager, I am also owner of Sweet Creations by Nancy and the maker of the We Want a Zoo cookies on your dais, so I hope you enjoy the cookies. We've raised our 3 children in Natomas and have frequented the Sacramento Zoo throughout the years. When we heard about the possible zoo relocation to Natomas, we were excited. Why? Because we have learned at our 9+ years at Westlake Charter that we demonstrate what's possible when the community collaborates. So we hope that if and when the City Council looks at possible relocation of the expanded zoo, we remember the promise made to our community when the Kings relocated to Golden One Center downtown. The promise that the Sleep Train Arena site becomes a meaningful and impactful project for Sacramento. We appreciate the receptiveness of the city to hear all of our voices as we advocate for the zoo and the community. Thank you, Mayor Steinberg and Mayor Pro Tem Ashby, for coming to Westlake Charter last week to receive all the persuasive writing and drawings from our students who support the zoo. And we greatly appreciate the zoo staff who have come to our We Want a Zoo community meetings the last few months. With their enthusiasm and belief in what is possible, we too can dream about a world-class facility for the zoo and for the city. As a member of the community, we look forward to collaborating with the city to make the dream of an expanded zoo at the Sleep Train Arena site into a reality. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Joe Flores, Frank Villalobos, and then Virginia Lopez is our final speaker.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Joe Flores. I'm the president of the Southland Park Neighborhood Association. And I just want to thank the council. A couple months ago, our neighborhood association came here and received a unanimous vote for the Del Rio Trail. And a couple of the council comments that we heard that night that we really took to heart was that we took a complex issue, all the factors into a project like the Del Rio Trail, and our neighbors still wanted a trail versus some other neighborhoods that may necessarily not want a trail in their neighborhood. And so when Elizabeth and Jason came to our neighborhood association back in May asking for support for the zoo, we told them that we could survey and poll our membership. And so we did that, and 70% of our respondents are in favor of the feasibility study that the zoo team is asking for. But it's caveated by 90% of the respondents, should the zoo relocate, that all stakeholders involved ensure that a park feature of comparable amenities would remain should the zoo relocate. So because we're the actual neighbors that are would be left with the site should they relocate and everything falls your way. You know, we still have to live there, and we want to make sure that the site is still has those park amenities going forward. So I'm here to answer any questions going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Flores, for coming forward. Appreciate it.
Frank Villalobos, and then Virginia Lopez.
We can help you out there, Mr. Villalobos. If you have a... Why don't you come to the microphone if you would, sir? Thank you. Welcome.
Okay, hi. Good evening, everybody. My name is Frank Villalobos. I used to reside in Land Park in the 50s, and I feel like the stepchild because I'm opposed against the relocation of the zoo. I agree that it's a great zoo. A lot of people come to visit it. It's a successful operation, and but there are other options, and those other options are outlined there. I didn't know we couldn't do that from the flash drive onto the screen. But I'll give you a minute so you can look at the alternate solutions. I agree with just about everything that's been said, except for the relocation of the zoo. It's a great staff. In the years, and I'm talking about 60, 70 years that we visited, my children, my grandchildren, we've always had a good time. It's a great surrounding. You got the fairy tale town. You have the Funderland amusement park. You have the pony rides. It's a great layout the way it is. And if you take the zoo out of the land park area, you're going to be taking the soul out of the communities, out of Greenhaven, Land Park, Pocket. You're going to be taking the soul. We did a preliminary survey of 10 streets, 3 out of each and 4 out of 1. And 9 out of 10 residents want to keep the zoo as is. I think it was 8, I'm not sure on this next one, but 8 out of 10 were registered voters. Those communities are very, very strong voting blocks. I want to emphasize that this is a very serious matter to the majority of residents. I feel like I'm coming into a pact.
Your 2 minutes is complete. Will you make your final comment? Your 2 minutes
We
is
have two.
complete. Will you make your final comment?
I wanted to say that I really appreciate you coming, and you've actually put forward several options that I'm sure that the staff and ultimately the city council would be happy to consider, sort of a hybrid plan here. So we're going to make this part of the record, but more important than that, we hear you, and we're going to follow up and make sure that every potential option is analyzed.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
very
City
much.
Council.
Virginia Lopez is our final speaker on this item.
Yes, good evening, Mayor Steinberg and City Council. I'm here to say that as a resident of Sacramento since 1964, when we first got here, we loved the zoo, me and my 10 siblings. We enjoyed it immensely.
10 siblings?
10 siblings, yeah. But
I'll vote for whatever you want here. That's the end of it.
But then, and then through the 70s and the 90s, my 4 children, we enjoyed taking them to the zoo, and they liked it. It was fun. You know, I think you could still feed the animals back then. I'm not sure. But anyway, then later on through the 90s up until now, when I'm taking my grandchildren, it's a little sad because the animals are so confined and they're not in areas that are conducive to their health. So I would like to say that most importantly, wherever we put the zoo, each animal enclosure should really have more than adequate space for the health of the animal. And, you know, and the enclosures maybe, I don't know, if they even have to have them, but if they do have to have enclosures as opposed to an open field, something that would be glass that we could see through. Also, the idea for the old zoo might be an interpretive center with an, I don't know, some kind of, something to do with the ecology of the rivers as they go into the ocean, something, it's a learning center with a huge park around it. Circular, I'm thinking circular for those poor otters that have no place to really feel like they're at home. But anyway, thank you so much, and I hope this really comes about as soon as possible, because I do feel for those animals. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. That ends the public testimony. Thank you again all for coming out tonight, whether you spoke or not. We note your presence and appreciate it. Let's turn it now to the City Council. I'm going to start with Councilmember Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd also like to say I appreciate everybody who came out and expressed their love for the zoo. I think anybody who's raised a child in Sacramento has spent a lot of hours there. I certainly have, and it's not only a place of great learning and interest for a kid and a lot of fun, it's more than a zoological park. It's actually a community gathering place. I've been to many concerts at the zoo, many functions, actually, of many different disciplines at the zoo. But what's really important here is some of the data that Mike Testa brought out, that a zoo is really an economic driver. And I was particularly stunned by the idea that visits to the zoos eclipse sports arenas. That's very significant. So as we look at investing in projects in the city moving forward, obviously, this one looks pretty rich, both in terms of community benefits and economic benefits. My predecessor, Steve Cohn, tried to relocate the zoo at Sutter's Landing Park. It turned out not to be a very good idea, being it's a closed landfill and it's off-gassing and subsiding, but we figured that piece out. After doing a study, of course. Anyway, that didn't work out. I think every council member would love to have an amenity like a zoological park in their district. That was my only one opportunity site, so that's gone. Look, no matter where the zoo might relocate, it would be a boon to the city and benefit everybody in the city. Areas in Natomas, Bing Maloney Golf Course, there are others mentioned in the staff report as well. I like Bing Maloney because it's a beautiful landscape with mature trees, and so the zoo would have a leg up if they moved there in terms of, they've got really great landscape to work with, certainly for the savanna animals, it would be exceptional. But we'll all have our preferences, and we'll see where this goes. I would just like to say to staff that I think doing a feasibility study is a really worthwhile investment and that we should proceed forward, because the zoo is part of our heritage, and as we've invested in sports facilities and the C3 projects, this is another piece that makes Sacramento a very, very attractive place and will bring a lot of dollars to the economy. So it wins in all quadrants. It really is, I think, a great project, and it would be my hope that we move forward with it. And Fran, thank you for being here and working on it. It seems like the projects that you work on move forward, so I'm kind of excited about this.
Thank you. Councilmember Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm partial to the zoo. I'm a former zoo board member, but even more so as a kid, I remember growing up in Sacramento and having field trips to our current zoo, and that was one of the things that we look forward to every year. Coming from Del Paso Heights Elementary School was our annual trip to the zoo. So I am hopeful that our city will have a zoo that's representative of a world-class city that we want to be, and we develop a world-class zoo. And I think the feasibility study is absolutely the right step to take. And then hopefully from that information, we can determine if indeed this is the Natomas site is the proper location, or if there's some other site. But I think it will give us the necessary information that will help us look at not just relocating the zoo, but really developing something that will be an investment in our city and pay dividends for years to come. And I'm thinking something in the 100-acre range. As I look at zoos around the country, if you look at the top zoos in the country, you're really looking at between 75, 80, and maybe 150 acres, I think, are some of the best zoos, and it would allow us the kinds of world-class amenity that I think Sacramento deserves. So I would look forward to seeing this report come back, and I'm supportive of taking this next step and making the 100,000. Is it 100 or 150? 150. I'm happy to make the motion, but maybe I should wait for the District 1 representative, because it's her district. Well, I would move then that we adopt staff's recommendation and vote for supporting of the $150,000 for the feasibility study.
Excellent. That was great. All right, Councilmember Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the current person who represents the zoo site, I didn't want to go first, but clearly I should have tried to. I think that, you know, my 6+ years on the council here and working with the zoo has always shown me a couple things. One is the zoo has some of the most passionate supporters and volunteers of any institution in this town. Secondly, 1.5 years ago, we had a prior board and executive director showing us a plan to renovate on the existing site. But I applaud the current board and Jason, you as the current executive, in rethinking that because it is an important conversation and it took some courage. And I think that this is a good step. But thirdly, we do it because not only for the kids, but I think the species conservation piece is truly critical. And it's often lost in these conversations, but when I go to the zoo, I don't know how many of you ever get to go behind the scenes, but they want to show me all the things that are going on. And, you know, here, Steve, touch the okapi. Isn't this great? I know you wonder, what is an okapi? But I encourage you to go. They're very gentle forest creatures from Africa that are apparently hunted and killed, and they're very rare. And they look like a zebra and a giraffe that have been merged together. Is that right, Jason? Yes. So I try to be a good student. So I think that, you know, we look at a lot of civic projects, and over the course of our time here, whether it's the Clara project or the Sophia or work that we've done with the Crocker, Powerhouse Science Center, you name it, we put projects through a different kind of vetting process that can seem to the average person as unfair or extra diligent or whatever attributes you want. Not fun is another way to put it. And so I don't want to be the person here who says to people in the WWAZ shirts that we have a lot of work to do, but we have a lot of work to do. And there's a lot of work on various pieces of this, and this has been my challenge to the board and to the staff at the zoo, is show me the work, and I will show you my support. That is, and I think this process can do that. I'm not an easy vote to get, as people know up here, but when I'm with you, I'm all with you. I was fully on board for helping the zoo renovate on its site and helping to get support for that $75 million project. But I still have a lot of questions here, and I think, Fran, this analysis should help with that. But a couple things that, you know, and I didn't make the motion, but I might consider asking for some amendments. Fran, who's doing this analysis? It doesn't say in the staff report who you've procured, or will you have to go to a procurement?
We have not done anything towards that because we wanted your direction to say that we should do that, and then we would go through a typical competitive open process to select a consultant.
I know that Schultz and Williams has been the one used by the zoo previously, and so I don't know, they seem to have the most familiarity. If we choose to go with them, one of the things I would say that was very compelling for me, and I don't know, we went through this on the vetting of the Powerhouse Science Center and even on the Convention Center projects, but EPS has done very thorough analyses and other similar vetting to look at what sales tax dollars are produced, what TOT dollars are produced, to really give us the fiscal analysis in that way. And I don't know what the right firm is, but I think really doing an apples to apples, show us some of those things that Mike Testa said. Not that I don't believe Mike Testa. He apparently has left, though. Oh, there you are. You're hiding in the crowd. I see you now. Your natural habitat is in an audience. But I do want that if we ultimately make a decision here, the city owns the animals. Everybody, I think, knows that. I don't think that was as clearly said earlier. But the Zoological Society is an independent organization, took over for the city quite a long time ago to help us run it better, run it more professionally, and honestly for a lower cost. But it's on the city site. The city owns this site, right? But not all of the sites, Fran, here does the city own. And one of the things that I think is particularly challenging, and I think this is also going to be potentially a disappointment, but not a hurdle, is I know that we do not own the former Sleep Train Arena site. That is seen as a major development site for certainly its current owners, but we've tried to attract corporate headquarters and other folks there. It's got a ton of infrastructure. I do think that the cost of site acquisition has to be an important factor. The public sites that we own is essentially land that can be swapped out without having to pay $80 million or more for a site. I think that has to be a factor, and you haven't shown kind of what the factors are in making a decision, but I hope your analysis helps weight, site control, site access to transit, the things that we would look at locating a major city facility. And this is a very generic staff report. I'm not criticizing it, but it's hard for the audience and the public who's not here, but who may be watching what we do, to know exactly how we're going to judge this. And I think we need to refine some of those factors. Just like with the presentation, which I thought was very good from Elizabeth and Jason about species preservation. How do we factor that into our decision? How do we factor in the visitor piece, which I mentioned, the species conservation piece, the partnerships with like UC Davis, and to really have as thorough and thoughtful analysis as possible, because this will be one of the biggest decisions we will have made. In my part of the world here in District 4, I have a ton of constituents who think the zoo is an amazing place. They're worried about what will happen if it leaves, partially because they're not sure what would come next. And for all those people here who are concerned about the arena site, and I heard promises made, promises broken, basically, by the Kings, I think that's fair. And we, as a city, need to do more to try to help backfill that site. Councilmember Ashby and myself actually wrote the motion on the city's term sheet and made that a commitment that the city would continue to advocate for that as a top-tier site for economic development. I know that there's a variety of uses that have been proposed that haven't been sufficient. Not my district, and I trust in the leadership of my colleague from District 1, but I also don't want the same hole in William Land Park. We have a significant amount of infrastructure that's specific to a zoo. It'll be very expensive to remove that, but what comes next? That is the key question my constituents have, and I think that is one of the questions that needs to be looked at in an analysis. What should the site be used for? There's a significant amount of money that probably needs to be dedicated to stakeholder outreach that is not reflected in this budget, and maybe as a next step. Because I know as much as the zoo has gone specifically to the Land Park Neighborhood Association or South Land Park Neighborhood Association, we have not engaged in a traditional stakeholder engagement process that will allow us to have a full set of information. And I do hear from people, they're not here, probably thankfully for the rest of you, but that don't want the zoo to leave, that think it's perfectly fine as it is, or believe the zoo should go away. I'm not necessarily supporting those concepts. I think that it's important to keep the zoo. It's important to have a healthy zoo. It's important to make a good decision here, though, especially if the city is going to be looked to for significant resources, which I believe is the whole purpose of this effort, right? You want us to put money in so that a zoo can move somewhere else. And that brings me just to the final point here, which is, I know you have this listed, and I might do it a little differently. I didn't get to choose what was first and second tier. The executive airport, and Madam City Attorney, I would like for you to provide the council an opinion about the ability to decommission the airport and what the process looks like for that, whether federal or otherwise. It is the source of pollution in Councilmember Chenier's district. The leaded fuels are dropping lead onto the neighborhoods. But that site, Fran, is what, 800 acres? Is that what you told me?
570.
I thought it was closer to 600.
600, but plus Bing Maloney?
540.
Plus?
Says Rob Fong.
It's 540.
540. Thank you, Rob Fong, from the back.
So if I can.
Hold on one second.
Yeah.
I'll just. But Bing Maloney as well, if we add those two together, is.
Bing Maloney is
It's
close to
240.
Bing Maloney is close to 200, and then there's a portion of it that's not in the flight path. So
240 and 5 what, Rob?
540.
540, almost 800. That's close enough. I think that part of the reason we should look at that site significantly and maybe elevated to the first tier, is I think that could provide us a path to pay for a zoo relocation. If we help develop those other acres to support the zoo, we can really probably do something really cool and not necessarily have to look at a more narrow scope or wait 10, 20 years to have the money. I think we could do it quicker. And that's why I think we very rarely have a large site like that. And that's in Councilmember Chenier's area. So maybe he doesn't want the airport redeveloped, like you don't want homes in Natomas. But those are some of the really important questions, because if we can sell off some of that land, it could go into helping to support the zoo's relocation. And for all the people who want it specifically in one place, let's be open in this process. I'm going to be open. I think my constituents should be open, and let's work through this process. But this is a baby step, if you will, into a bigger set of stairs, if that makes any sense. So, Mr. Warren, as friendly direction, will you allow some of those questions to be incorporated?
It was a direction.
My understanding was that we were going to do the feasibility study, and I think the more information we can get, the better. So I don't necessarily have an issue with some of the suggestions that you might have, Steve. So if you can kind of tighten up the scope to help give direction to staff so we can get as much pertinent information as possible, I'm fine with that.
I think the key is just the economic analysis, really tightening that up, and the staff report doesn't say that. Really focusing on the availability of a site, the cost of a site, but also the monetization of a site to help finance it. Those are probably the key things. And then the backfill for William Land Park.
I might suggest too that, and maybe Mr. City Manager could, it would sound to me like the scope may need, or the amount of money that we allocate might need to be adjusted to be reflective of what both the staff is requesting and Councilman Hanson wants. So if that's the case, I would have no problem with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're receiving direction from the council tonight, and the $150,000 is something we're estimating. We're going to go out to bid, and if it's more, if it's less, we're going to come back with that. But we can absolutely incorporate some of those questions.
Yeah, I think it's important that we do analyze, city assets and all that, and find the best location for doing a tremendous zoo. Now, personally, I'm excited about the District 1 site. I'm also concerned, share the concerns that Councilman Hanson has about leaving a hole in Land Park, and want to make sure, just as Councilwoman Ashby did with the arena, she wanted to make sure that there was a suitable use in the Natomas that came in, and that was very important when we all made the decision about the arena. So I share Councilman Hanson's concerns and don't have an issue with the friendly amendment. So
thank you. I'm happy to support your motion.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you. Councilmember Ashby.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'm really proud of Natomas. When I first ran for office about 9 years ago, one of my primary goals was to see Natomas in here advocating for themselves like other communities do. And I had been here long enough to see other communities that show up and they're just taken very seriously because they're very organized and they have done their homework. And so for me, just to see my community in here doing that is really a big deal for me, and I am extremely proud of you and the number of meetings that you have held, and your shirts and the kids and the letters and the schools the mayor and I have. This is my binder of letters so far, and this doesn't include the schools.
I have more than you do.
Oh, forgive me if I haven't answered your email. It would be amazing. And I have a chief lobbyist at home that Ashley has procured. My own kindergarten daughter has written me a letter about a narwhal and a pirate ship. So good luck to me. I know Natomas wants the zoo. And I'm very proud of Natomas because you have been patient on the arena site. And I've said over and over to every media outlet that has asked me that we are not in a rush. We want something good. We don't want something fast. We want the right thing. But this is the kind of thing you wait for, right? You wait until there's something like this to fight for. And I think that's important. We don't know what the Kings will say. I have met with them many times, talked to them about it. As you know, they've put out some statements that they're open to it. Their current request does not preclude a zoo. For them, it's a business decision, and so we just need to talk to them on their terms. But I don't want to get out over my skis. I am not that council member, so this decision needs to happen first. I think it's really important to save the zoo. Natomas or not Natomas, I think it is very important to save the zoo. I'm a mom of 3 kids. I've spent a lot of time at that zoo, but it is maybe a 2-hour visit for us. And we are the family that wherever we go goes to the zoo. Santa Barbara, Portland, you name it, San Diego. When we go to different places, we go check out the zoo. And I want Sacramento to be that city too. And not just because of the tourism, although I think that's great, but because world-class cities get involved in world-class causes. And it's not just about the building or the structure or a cool arena, but joining a global effort to save 12 different species that we think would do well in our habitat, that's pretty important stuff. And I think it's the stuff that makes Sacramento special. I have 2 pages of zip codes for letters, so lest you all think this is just a Natomas issue, it really is not. Natomas has taken a leadership role because they have one of the great, actually 2 of the top 3 locations are in Natomas, and actually 3 of the top 6 are in North Natomas. So we have some land up there. It's the new growth area. That shouldn't surprise anyone. This is an effort that's been underway, thanks Alan, for quite some time. And I think it's important that we look at all the factors that Councilmember Hansen has stated. I am just as proud of Land Park as I am of Natomas. I've been around a minute too. I went to Sac High. I've been here a long, long time. For Land Park folks, and especially like Judge Scotland, to be out here and say, it's time, that's a really big deal. And it's not, I just want you to know I'm not taking that for advantage. It's a really big deal to see people in Land Park come out and say, we love our zoo, but we know it's time. It really isn't an option for it to stay there. It really isn't. This isn't Land Park versus anybody else. It really is about what Councilmember Hansen has said, then what happens to Land Park. And I'm very sensitive to that. So I'll tell you from my vantage point, no matter where this zoo might land or what the feasibility study tells us, it will be important to me that included in that feasibility study is the designated reuse of the Land Park site in a manner that the people of Land Park would like to see it reused. That is critically important to this, and I won't vote for anything that doesn't include that. They think I initiated this effort. I did not. This was actually handed to me by the mayor. The zoo folks met with the mayor first, and the mayor sent them to me. And one of the first things I said was, what about jobs? Because when the Kings were here and we talked about reuse, we talked about economic engines. And so I've been very proud of Jason, who, by the way, when you talk about wanting a world-class zoo, you might as well have when you already have a world-class zoo director. He and the mayor and I made some visits with UC Davis, the chancellor and the dean of the veterinary school, and we've spent some time with them, and they're very excited about this program. For example, they have the only program that saves gorillas in the wild. And right now they have to travel to San Diego to be able to work on that program or have their students work on that program. Something like this zoo would allow them to work here on some of those types of species. And that partnership is very real. It's very real for the kids in Sacramento, not just Natomas, but all over Sacramento. I know the school districts are interested in being partners. Almost everyone that hears about this proposal, even if they just read an article in the Bee or saw something on the news, has reached out to me to say, is that really happening? The developers in the area around the arena, the Dave Bagatos of the world, are really excited about this proposal. and what it has meant to them from the people who are calling them the Centenes of the world. We talk about economic development. Centene has reached out to me. They want the zoo across the street. That is a good partner for them. It's different hours for traffic. By the way, Natomas is very used to 16,000 people coming and going from this site, so we don't have a traffic or a parking issue there. So that's one bonus we've got. I think the UC Davis piece, the We Want a Zoo effort, the commitment to Land Park, and knowing that we just can't stay where we are, and then wanting to be this global partner are enough for me to say, we definitely need to take a look at the next step. My commitment to you, and there are many people from Natomas in the room tonight, which doesn't always happen, my commitment to you, Natomas, and to anybody else here who's interested in the Natomas sites is that I will do the best I can to figure out if the sites that are being presented are viable for us, and if not, how we can partner on other sites and how we can, first and foremost, save the zoo, and secondly, ensure that we get a strong designated reuse from our arena site and that we build out a beautiful regional park in North Natomas. Those are my commitments to you. I will keep them, and where they interface with each other, we will do the best we can. I am grateful to my council member, Alan Warren, for making the motion. I actually didn't know he was a former zoo trustee. That's the thing I learned tonight. Who knew? That's fantastic. But this is exciting, and I love hearing Jeff Harris's excitement too. I think could be a really fun project for us to get to work on, a really great moment for Sacramento. And so I thank you all very much for the opportunity just to vote on it here tonight and for your advocacy. Good work.
Thank you. Councilmember Jennings.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I am very much in support of the feasibility study. I just want a couple of questions, and I think, Jason, you're the first person that I'm going to ask the questions to. So in its heyday, and you may know this, you may not, in its heyday, what were the most animals that we've ever had at the zoo?
We know that in 1971, which is how far back our records go, we had about, I want to say, 1,700 animals on grounds. Or hold on, I'll get the number for you right now. I think it's 1,400 we had in 1971.
Okay, so zoo opened in 1927.
Correct.
As a matter of fact, we'll celebrate our 92nd year, June the 2nd, 1927. So happy birthday in advance. And you started with 40 animals.
Yes.
You know that?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So to go to 1,700 in 1971, and we're currently right now
a little over 400 animals.
A little over 400. So I do know that in 2012 we had 500, and so we've been declining ever since.
We sent over 40 animals to other institutions last year alone.
Okay. So we know in the current site, and I guess I'm kind of thinking about the young man whose alternatives to keep the zoo where it is. And I guess my question to you is, as we go through the feasibility study, the current site has pretty much been ruled out in totality, correct?
At this time, yes.
Okay, and that's board direction, board vision?
That's from the board of directors, yes.
Okay. And as it relates to the feasibility study, has the board direction been included in that feasibility study as a part of what it is that they want to do going forward, not only for the next 5 years, but for the next 20 years?
So when you say going forward for the next 5 years until we figure out where we're going, or?
No, ultimately, what kind of zoo do you want? Has the board had a retreat to speak to the type of zoo that they want in the next 20 years?
I will allow our board chair to answer that.
Thank you. I can say on behalf of the Board of Trustees that we unanimously support relocation.
Okay.
And so we are prepared to work with the city and Fran and any other, constituencies, advocacy groups to help figure out the best and most appropriate way to relocate the zoo and to explore a vision that meets both the conservation and the community goals that we've outlined.
So I think my direction would say, as you're looking at making this move and knowing that you have to relocate, that's an immediate need that you want to have. I'm looking at a 20-year plan that says, here is the vision that we have for the Sacramento Zoo in the city of Sacramento, and that includes the move, but ultimately what the zoo will look like. And I think the board is the one that gives the strategic direction as to what that's going to be. And so I would encourage the board and the community to come together and start really deciding what type of zoo do we want and how do we want it to look, not just over the next 5 years, not over the next year, but over the next 20 years. And I think that will give the people who are doing the feasibility study, it'll give them more direction about the type of location that's going to best meet their needs.
And just so you know, we have already done some polling work. We have surveyed our member base. We have already started that process of outreach to the community. And part of the feasibility study is also going to explain things, for example, like how we phase out the development of the new site. And so that will also give the council information about what we envision is here's the next 5 years, here's what we want by 10 years, and facing out to the future so that we make an appropriate and reasonable plan for expansion.
Gotcha.
Including financing it, of course.
Good.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Fran, the feasibility study and the $150,000, is that based on the current 3 sites? Or if we were to include more sites in that, does that price change?
So it wasn't based on a specific number, but certainly we knew that there were the 3 that we've put in the top, but the ones that are in the middle there, they need more work because they may actually rise up. We just don't know enough about them. Now, I'm going to just give you a caveat that this number, this is not a scientific number. This was several of us putting our heads together in terms of, what do you think this would cost based on the experience you have? Certainly I asked very experienced people, but again, I had envisioned a land park study at some point. But I envisioned that in the next phase because one of the questions that people kept asking me was, what can we tell the land park people about when this would happen? And I'm like, well, wait, we got to figure out what it is and how we phase it out before we could start telling people when we think it could potentially happen after we've put a finance plan together. So I think we have several phases of study, because as you all know, these are not simple things that you do one study and you get all the answers you need. It's, there are several questions that you ask and then that opens up other questions. So we will have to put our heads together and come up with a scope of work that seems to make sense. It may be phased, but it definitely will be larger if we're going to do more with it.
And I think that's the way I'm looking at this, is that we've identified 3 sites, and I think there could be more. I think as you start talking about the kind of zoo that you ultimately want, not just the kind of zoo that we have right now, even if we were to try to get back to the 1700 and what that looks like, that feasibility study could be a little bit bigger, and we could be looking at more locations and more sites. So I am very much in support of doing the feasibility study and moving forward and trying to understand exactly how we can have the best zoo in the entire state of California. Because I've got 6 grandkids, and I have 6 grandkids, and I want them to know that they are going to the #1 zoo in the state of California. And when I try to explain to them why it's no longer in Land Park, it's in somewhere new, they're going to want to know how much bigger and how much better it is. So I'm in support of the feasibility study.
Councilman Schneer. Councilmember Schneer.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things real quickly. First of all, to my folks in Fullertown, I am not supporting it at the airport. I think that, please don't call me tomorrow. We've done some preliminary work on the airport, which I'm certainly share with Fran. We've asked the county to kind of update the overfly zones. We're looking at toxics. Closing an airport is a minimum of a 10-year, minimum 10 years. And so I don't know that that's a viable site, so I'd love to take that off the table right now. We assume because of what happened in Mangum Park, also with lead from airplanes flying over, we'd have a challenge with that. So I don't think it's a viable site to spend a lot of time on.
Councilmember, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We could do it the Chicago way, where you just get a bulldozer and you close the airport.
We choose not to.
Mayor?
Yes.
We'll let the mayor drive.
Let me also say to all of my constituents in Hollywood Park, Southland Park, Woodbine, Golf Course Terrace, Freeport on the Move, and Mangan Park, we will come talk to you about this. This is a little bit of cart before the horse here, and so we haven't had a lot of community interaction. I know Southland Park has kind of on their own, but if we can schedule some of this topic within the neighborhood meetings that we have, that would be great. I think everybody's on the right track here. We need a feasibility study. We need to let the data kind of drive us where we should be going. The one other thing, Fran, I'm hoping that you could include is I've had some conversations, as I believe others have, with folks who want to do a botanical gardens in Sacramento. And it seems to me that's a very compatible use, potentially alongside the share facilities or possibly even for a reuse of the old site. I don't know. But if you can reach out to them as well and see if there's a possibility of wherever this is, teaming up with them, we could have shared parking, maintenance yards, things like that. I think it would be worth doing. That's all I have, and I'm interested and excited to see what the study looks like, and that's all I got.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor, and I want to thank everyone who's out here today. My son is just entered into the toddler age, and so he can't quite exactly say lion, but he knows every time he sees the lion, he roars, in his cute little roar, and exactly. But it makes me think about his experience in going to a local zoo and wanting to have that positive interaction and how important that is for all our kids in our schools to make sure that they have the opportunity to visit a healthy zoo. So I want to again echo what Councilmember Hansen said, was that we should focus on if the end goal, having a zoo that we're proud of, a zoo that's healthy. And a zoo that the community feels that represents the pride and ownership of having a good zoo. And I don't want my son to come over and say, wow, those animals feel like they're cramped in a cage or mistreated or whatnot. I want him to have a fun experience at that. But I also am very sensitive to what the Southland Park Commissioner Flores over here said, and they're concerned about what happens to the reuse. And I know I wasn't on the council during the arena issue, but I also do believe that two wrongs don't make a right. I mean, I do think that whatever we do on this end, it should be guided by the feasibility study, and the feasibility should include what's the reuse or what's the use of that land afterwards. So when it happens simultaneously. There's an agreement about what to use with that vacant land. I think the component to ask about public land versus private land, acquisition of land is a challenge. The staff report didn't have much on explaining the tiers, and so obviously one of the speakers said, I hate to be parochial, but I'll be parochial. They want it in their neighborhood, and I've had constituents in my own district say they want it in their neighborhood, and so I see Granite Regional Park there, but I understand that there's some geological issues with that area. But I would like some more detail on why something rises to a particular tier and what makes it viable. The next issue is transit access and just the issue of accessibility. What I'd hate to replicate, even though parking is a big driver in this. I mean, we know, and every time we want to go to the zoo, you got to fight for parking. It's like you're almost like if you're downtown, you're trying to fight for parking there. But what I don't want to end up is another Chavez Ravine in the Dodger Stadium situation where we have this massive parking lot. So I want to challenge both the board and on the feasibility study to think creatively about parking so that most of the space isn't consumed or a big chunk of it is used not by parking, but think creatively of that. I think whatever site we choose, transit has to be an issue. One of the interesting things about the golf course site is there is an active light rail station right down the street on Florin Road, and it's in between two major freeways, so there seems to be a lot more access points. So I think what I'd like to see there is on the transportation part, on the transit part, that's important, because I would like to make sure that families who in my district, I have a pretty high census tract of folks who don't own vehicles, and that's not by choice, it's by economics. I want to make sure that they also have the ability to access the zoo. I know the zoo's done a lot to outreach the disadvantaged communities and does free, passes and making sure, but that's great. If you can't get to the zoo, the free passes don't matter. So I want to make sure that whatever we're doing has that component to it. Again, on the competitive bid process, I want to make sure we use that on whichever consultant we use. Outside of that, I think let's let the data guide it. And excited for the age when I get to take little Javi out to the zoo. So
soon.
That's right.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you very much.
Final comment from the center seat here. I'm strongly supportive of the feasibility study. And I was convinced by this batch of letters from all these kids, but one letter especially from a very influential constituent. I'm going to put this up here. It's a picture of a giraffe, and it said, "Give me a bigger home, please. I need to adapt." That's the one. Put me over the edge. This is a great discussion. So, thinking about this, dream big. Sacramento should dream big. I remember during all the different chapters of the Golden One, it wasn't just the Golden One Center, but the King's debates over the years, and I was involved in all of them, whether as a city council member or as a state senator. And it always struck me, there were people with legitimate reasons to oppose, certainly the financial issues, et cetera, but all things being equal, why don't we want more for Sacramento? More. We want more arts. We want more sports. We want more opportunity in all our neighborhoods. We want more destination amenities, like a world-class zoo. And so this is a good start. And we have to be analytical. We have to analyze all of these sites. We have to ask the hard questions about not only what is the best site, but how do we finance a project like this? And it is interesting to me that this debate takes place tonight as we've been having these large debates citywide, as you've probably been following, about economic development in the city. And here's one thing that I think is indisputable, and I think it ought to apply across the board, whether we're talking about a dream like a zoo, or we're talking about investing in improving the quality of life along Stockton Boulevard, or Del Paso Boulevard, or many of the neighborhoods in our cities, is dreaming big requires capital, with a capital C. That's what it requires. It requires resources. The Golden One, well, not done for free here, because it was a big deal. And so I think tonight's debate illustrates that the people of Sacramento do want more. And let's look at this analytically. Let's look at it carefully. Let's look at it with an open mind and with big hearts, because we want more for our people. This has been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstain. Very good. Thank you. Thank you all. Heidi. Thank you, Justice Scotland. Thank you to everybody. All right. Other council comments. There are items not on the agenda. How many people do we have here? We have 5. No, we're going to go with the public comments on items not on the agenda first.
I have 5 speakers signed up for public comments, matters not on the agenda. The first is Charlie Duckworth, then Betty Williams, Kayla Scott, Aaron McMahon, and then Noah Davidson.
Yeah.
Is Charlie here?
Yeah.
Let's take Betty first.
I'm going to listen to this. Betty, thank you for your patience today.
paid for extra parking just in case this happened. Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I'm Betty Williams, President of the Greater Sacramento NAACP, and I'm here to speak on Measure U. As many of you know, that I wasn't a great fan of Measure U in the beginning, only because it didn't lack enough information for me at the time. However, our community is intelligent, and they may ask the hard questions, but if answered truthfully, they will agree to vote what's best for the city of Sacramento. Therefore, Measure U was passed at 57% because they trusted what was presented to them, and now we're here today, and I'm here today demanding that you make it right so that we support moving forward with Measure U. When I came in earlier today, I was met with a group of people who told me that City Councilman Steve Hansen had put something forward that they felt promising about, and that the discussion went positive when it came to Measure U. So, City Council, these promises in my speech is half because of what they said to me. We need to make it whole. We need to make it right by our community. Mayor Steinberg, I do stand with you in making sure that we need to stay focused on the communities and what has been left for decades without appropriate funding for much-needed programs. It takes years to get these communities into conditions that they are in, and it will take years to get the funding to make them better, and not a one-time funding year. City Manager, I know he's gone, but I ask you to look outside the box and to work with the City Council. I know it takes more than one person. It takes an entire City Council to vote for this. So I'm trusting that you will do the right thing and make this work, not just for me, but for everyone that trusted you when we were approached with our organizations.
This afternoon, we did make great progress towards, as I describe it, fulfilling the promise. And we're on our way. So thank you. Thank you
Appreciate
for coming.
that.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Kayla Scott, is Kayla here? Thank you. Following Kayla is Aaron McMahon and then Noah Davidson.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Kayla Scott. I live in District 6. I'm up here to discuss an issue that extends my request from last week, where I requested an online database where we profile our police officers, which would include background, history, education, experience. I requested that because I wanted to include body cam footage for each officer on their profiles as they conclude their day, much like how we do with our city hall meetings. I'd like to have something accessible for the public. Keep in mind that this is the only practical use for body cam footage, because when we requested body cam footage, we wanted to know whether or not our suspicions were true, and that is that police officers express implicit biases and that they may be targeting Black people. In February of this year, that was confirmed when my cousin was shot in the face 25 times, Willie McCoy, and he was just sleeping in his car. At this point, all the body cam footage did was escalate the rage that we have in our communities and it amplify that belief that police officers are targeting us. A database would allow us to keep track of the irrational behavior. And for example, Sac PD was in the news because they put a plastic bag on a 12-year-old's face. If we had had body cam footage prior, we probably would have caught that and told you guys, like, that's probably not a good idea, and prevented that from becoming a news issue. I want to be able to restore the trust of the police in our communities, but unfortunately, not even just in the Black community, because I used the footage from last week and put it on my Facebook, and it wasn't just Black people that were saying that they were afraid of the police. So by us having that database, it could restore some of the trust that we have in our police and minimize the chances that irrational fear becomes fatal. Thanks so much. Thank you for your comments tonight.
Aaron McMahon and Noah Davidson.
Good evening, Vice Mayor and City Council members. I'm going to try to keep my intro short.
My name is Aaron McMahon. I live at 7597 Pocket Road, located in District 7. 5 months ago, Verizon installed antennas on the light pole located directly in front of my property. I'm here tonight in my continuing effort to get the antennas located on light pole SLT-7551 moved away from my property. I have 2 young daughters, and I live in fear of their safety. Have you ever heard a 3-year-old pray to God that she does not get cancer? I have. My daughter Hope says this same prayer every night before she goes to bed. Her bed, which is now alongside my bed because we do not feel it is safe for our daughters to sleep in their own room. We are living in fear. I'm asking all of you tonight to provide residents of the city of Sacramento proof that these antennas out in front of our houses and in our yards are 100% safe with no long-term health risks. I would like all of you to go on record stating that my little girls will never get sick because of the cell antennas now located outside their window. The burden of proof should lay on the city of Sacramento and on Verizon, as well as anyone else involved with the decision to move forward with 5G expansion without first properly researching the technology, not on myself and the public to prove that they do cause long-term health effects. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments.
Noah Davidson is our final speaker.
Good evening, Mr. Davidson.
Hello, thank you. Is this working?
Yes, just there you go.
Thank you very much. So I'm Noah Davidson. Aaron is my brother-in-law. Our family has been trying to get the cell antenna in front of our home removed for almost 3 months. We've been told that the antenna is compliant with FCC guidelines and nothing can be done. 3 weeks ago, I received a statement directly from the FCC stating only the spatial region at the same height and within a distance of about 10 to 20 feet directly in front of each antenna has the potential to exceed the FCC RF exposure limits for the general public. Statement's right here. The antenna is mounted on top of a light pole about 20 feet above ground level and only 5 feet from our property line, meaning a portion of our front yard is in this 10 to 20 foot zone that could potentially exceed FCC exposure limits. What if we needed to get on a ladder and trim the tree next to the antenna? What if we wanted to put a 2-story bounce house in our front yard for a party? Could our exposure potentially exceed the FCC limits? I brought this issue to the attention of Verizon, the FCC, Doris Matsui, and the City of Sacramento. Here's my email dated May 19th, to which I first addressed this issue to the city. The city has not responded, neither have any of the parties that I've reached out to have specifically addressed this matter of whether or not the antenna is actually compliant with FCC guidelines. 2 weeks ago, I reviewed the permit issued by the City of Sacramento for the antenna in front of our home. There's a table showing maximum permissible exposure calculations for our antenna. I noticed that the calculations were not performed at the height of the antenna, despite the antenna being surrounded by 2-story homes where people will be exposed at the height of the antenna every single day. I take this to mean no one knows whether or not our exposure can potentially exceed the FCC limits. I reached out to XG Engineering, the company that performed these calculations, with my concerns. I also forwarded this information to Verizon, the FCC, and Sacramento's CIO, Maria McGonigal. None of these parties have addressed this concern.
Will you make your final comments, please? Your 2 minutes is complete.
My final comments are, how can you hide behind FCC guidelines and not even know if the antenna is compliant with FCC guidelines?
Thank you for your comments today, and I'll ask our city manager and their staff to follow up with you. Okay, that concludes our public comment. We have members from the council for council comments and AB 1234 reports. Councilmember Harris.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So I'm pretty excited about this. Pops in the Park return this Saturday, June 1st, and they will be held every Saturday in June. We've changed it a little bit this year in that the food vendors and beer garden will open at 5 p.m. The concerts will still go from 6 to 9 p.m. The first concert on June 1st is in East Portal Park, and it will be Joe Craven and the Sometimers. Joe is an incredibly talented multi-instrumentalist. So we hope to see you out there at Pops in the Park. It's always a lot of fun. Additionally, Fire Station Number 4 is having an open house this Saturday, June 1st, from 10 a.m. till noon. They're located at 3145 Granada Way, just behind the Safeway on Alhambra Boulevard.
Great, thank you very much, Councilmember Harris. Councilmember Carr.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. This Saturday, June the 1st, will be a very eventful day in District 8. Up first, we have Free Soccer Fun Day, and that's going to be from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Franklin Boyce Park. That's located at Mack Road and Franklin Boulevard. Water and snacks will be provided. A free T-shirt to the first 100 kids who show up to play. All kids ages 4 to 14 are welcome, and no experience is needed. And thank you to the Greenhaven Soccer Club, who partnered with the Rose Family Creative Empowerment Center for this event. This will be a kickoff to a continual partnership to bring youth programming to District 8 as part of our Measure U funding. Next up, we have Hack the Park, presented by Meadowview's own Nicholas Hastings and the Square Root Academy. That's going to be from 11 to 2 p.m. this Saturday at North Laguna Creek Park. This fun-filled event will bring hands-on STEM training, science, technology, engineering, and math activities to our youth in the district as well as the city as a whole. You can RSVP on Eventbrite. That's Eventbrite, EVENTBRITE. And last but not least, we have Sacktown Showdown. That's going to be at Luther Burbank High School this Saturday from 3 to 5 p.m. Sacktown Showdown is a collaboration between our District 8 office and Studio T Dance Academy to continue to offer opportunities for our youth to showcase their talent in the visual, performing arts, including singing, dancing, acting, music, and more. There will be over $5,000 in cash prizes to our youth. Tickets are now available at Sacktown Has Talent. That's SacktownHasTalent.com. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carr, and we will be doing an adjournment in memory by Mr. Carr before we adjourn. Councilmember Jennings.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. A couple of announcements. The Pride of the Pocket is going to take place this Thursday, May the 30th at 6 p.m. at Didion Elementary School. You may be asking, what is the Pride of the Pocket? This is our award ceremony celebrating the people who have made District 7 a wonderful place to live, work, and play. So you can come on out and see those who are going to be getting recognized. Once again, that's Didion Elementary School this Thursday at 6 p.m. And then on Friday, June the 7th, this will be the District 7 movie night. It's going to take place at the newly renamed Park, Willie Castone Park, formerly Mesa Grande Park. You grab a blanket, bring your lawn chair, and right around dusk, we're going to watch the Mary Poppins Returns. Movie Poppy Returns, oh gosh. All right, anyway, Mary Poppins Returns. It's going to be under the stars. In case you were a kid that grew up and went to the movies in the cars, and you remember those days you go in the car and your parents would hide you. Well, kids don't do that anymore. They do it under the stars, and we watch it in the night in the movie. So Mary Poppins Returns on Friday, June the 7th.
Well, thank you very much, Councilmember Jennings. Okay, from District 6, we have on Thursday, May 30th at 5 o'clock, the new Joseph Bonheim Elementary School is going to have their Farm to Fork event where we're going to celebrate what water means to me. And this is going to be an opportunity for our elementary school kids to talk about water quality and how a career in water engineering and civil engineering can be a great career, but more importantly, how to protect our water supply and quality. So join us at 5 o'clock, 7:30 for their Farm to Fork event at New Joseph Bonheim Elementary School. Granite Regional Skate Park, we're going to have a reopening. Bring your skateboard and celebrate the new improvements to the skate park on June 15th at 10:30 a.m. We're going to have a little competition for the young skaters and also for the teens. Also, on June 20th, College Greens is going to have their second food truck of the year at Glenbrook Park. So come out and check out family and friends at Glenbrook Park. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Councilmember Carr for an adjourn in memory.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Last Tuesday, we had a celebration of life memorial service for Dr. Marion Woods. Dr. Woods was born on November the 28th, 1931 in Marietta, Georgia. He was a classmate of Martin Luther King Jr. at Morehouse College. Morehouse is one of the most prestigious historically black colleges in the United States. Woods' community service included being appointed director of the Sacramento Office of Economic Opportunity, an organization of the War on Poverty. He was a founding member of the Sacramento Urban League and held membership with the National Association of the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP. Woods chaired the Sacramento Civil Service Commission and served as president of the Center for Educational Excellence, Equality, and served on the executive boards of the Sacramento NAACP, the Women's Civic Improvement League. Woods also was a retired veteran, having served in the U.S. Air Force, raising to the rank of lieutenant colonel, and he was a proud member of my fraternity, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. His final campaign was promotion of a museum to honor the late attorney, Nathaniel Colley, who successfully argued a landmark California case outlawing public housing discrimination. Marion J. Woods, 87, a lifetime champion for civil rights and justice, passed away peacefully, surrounded by his family on Wednesday, May the 1st, 2019.
Thank you, Councilman Carr. And tonight we're adjourning for veteran and civil rights leader Dr. Marion Joan Woods Jr. We're adjourned.